Rose is here with us this morning. Have no fear, the Digipreneur is here. What's up, my partner? You good?
I'm good, Jason. How things are you?
All is well. How life in Thailand, bro?
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. I'm here watching on, paying attention to everything happen, and seeing how this is going to be impacting all of us, both within the country and outside the country. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, war and rumors of war. And obviously, I know even before we get into our discussion and our geopolitical uncertainty, you were there in Thailand one day. I would have had a clash with their neighbor, I believe, Cambodia, in recent time. That was something that jumped off, I think, was it earlier this year? You were there, right?
Man, they've been at it for about 100 years. So the border dispute isn't new. This is also, Trump was here 2 weeks ago and he got the two of them to sign a peace agreement, and everything was good for about 7 days, and now they're back to clashing again. So I don't think that border dispute with Thailand and Cambodia, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. But it's a small border far away from me, so hopefully they solve it, sometime soon, hopefully.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously being around that kind of energy, it really sits heavy on the spirit. And obviously so many of us here, even though it's just rhetoric right now and positioning, the moving of the chess pieces, the USS carrier, Gerald Ford, is in the region. Just position, nothing going on just yet. You're hearing our Prime Minister saying Trinidad will not be a staging ground. There's no military action, but people believe sincerely that all that kind of military power is here for regime change. And if indeed that takes place, we'll find ourselves in the middle of a conflict. And what impact will that have on our SME, our business interests? It's important to have the conversation. We're not trying to be alarmist. We're not trying to get anybody scared, but I think it's important to understand the possibilities. So I want you to break it down for us through your lens. What are the possibilities if conflict, military action comes to our region?
And here's the thing, right? We don't even have to have direct conflict for impact, right? What's happening right now with the gathering of military assets is already classifying our region as now a high-risk region to do business. So when you think about the trade routes on the sea that have to come in, we are an island. We are dependent on foreign inputs. So whether that be we're importing raw materials or we're importing finished products, we know that 30% of our GDP is made up of the SME community. And because we are so dependent on imports coming in, if our region is now being considered and being reclassified as a high-risk region, what's going to happen is you're going to have things like insurance premiums on travel coming in, on goods coming in. Insurance is going to go up. What does that mean for you? The past gets passed down, or the costs get passed down to us. We're now just importing and shipping goods in and out the country is going to now raise the prices. You brought up the point about, me being here with the Thailand and Cambodia border. While there isn't no direct threat to my life, and again, that's a skirmish that's been going on for 100+ years, when they had to shut down the border the other day, because they are trading partners with each other, that specific border cost them $4 million USD per day in just lost trade. So even if they're not at war, them just having the dispute and not being able to trade is costing them both money. So when you're thinking about all of these military assets coming in, we are trying to now bring in people, with regards to tourism. We have Carnival coming up. You also have people who are thinking about, maybe this might not be a good year to be in Trinidad. I know 2 groups of people who have already canceled their flights, not because they don't want to come, but you're looking at all of the assets gathering up, and people would rather play safe than sorry. And again, when you are in times of uncertainty, people are always going to now protect themselves and try to do the most safe and responsible thing.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wins in a war. Are you watching the digital footprint, some of the activity that's happening online? Obviously, lots of misinformation. And I think naturally people are always drawn towards what they're thinking, what their particular perspective might be. And I know so many different vloggers and bloggers all over the world are weighing in. What's your take on the digital footprint and climate surrounding this moment of uncertainty?
It impacts how people view Trinidad and Tobago. And I mean, let me give an example, right? With all of the press that we are getting, it is creating uncertainty, and there are many opportunities for investments. We are launching a revitalization plan, and what's the first thing they said? Where is the money going to come from? It's going to come from foreign investors, right? Now, if you are a foreign investor and you are seeing a nuclear sub now pulling in, you're seeing the USS Gerald now pull up in our backyard, do you think this is a good time to invest in the region? You don't have nothing in the region just yet. You think this is a good time to invest in the region? Or are you going to wait until things play out so you can get an idea as to what is now going to be a certain thing? Earlier this year, I had a friend that's in Trinidad, and we were looking to start a business together, and they're going to be moving out to Asia as well. And we have a business that's going to be doing some stuff within Trinidad and the Caribbean. And it was a great idea, still a great idea, but it was a great idea for early this year. And right about the last month, I now was talking to them like, listen, we have to put a pause on this because the business that we are creating is one, it's a physical product, meaning we got to get physical products to Trinidad, but then two, it's also a non-essential business. And Jason, think about it. Think about most of the business owners that we know in TNT, they are doing the same thing. They have physical products that are also non-essential products. You think people are going to be purchasing the same way when things are kicking off? And again, trade routes are disrupted. People are going to be clinging to their money more than ever before. So even if we don't get any direct war impact, just the conflict in the region is going to increase the cost of doing business. And again, it's also going to put our market in a place where people might be more reserved than they were spending on, when times are good.
When you look at history and what would have transpired many, many moons ago, seeing British financier Baron Rothschild, or Rothschild, a matter of fact, said, quote, the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. And I actually heard somebody, end quote, I went to a conference, I was hosting a conference some years ago, and the man's opening line, the featured keynote speaker said, best time to invest is when the place is this kind of time in blood in the streets, when the place is crazy. So there are others who are looking at this moment, Keron Rose, as much as we are watching this through our strategic lens and very nervous and trying to figure out, the impact on business. There are people kind of waiting and rubbing their hands and waiting to see if things jump off, and they're looking to run in, to invest, bro.
But Jason, there's opportunity in chaos, as always. Look at COVID. Look at COVID's a perfect example, right, for what we could kind of expect. The logistical nightmare that happened during COVID time, we saw that there was an increase in doing business in Trinidad. The wait times to get things into Trinidad, the clearing times to get things, past customs, all of these things were impacted, right? There were people that made millions during COVID, and there were other people that lost everything during COVID. So there's always going to be opportunity amidst the chaos. What that looks like, we have no idea, because look at COVID. We saw people who made bank just selling face masks, where 2 months prior to the start of COVID, you couldn't make no kind of money selling face masks, but people made good money on just something as simple as selling face masks. So there will always be people that are looking for the opportunities in chaos. But what has to happen now is we need to start bracing ourselves and start thinking about our plan B. And Jason, funny enough, right? You know who's the most resilient group in the SME community right now who can withstand much of what is happening?
Who's that?
It's all of the people who are running a digital business and their clients are just not in Trinidad and Tobago, or they have a job and they're working remotely and they're not working for a company in the region. Those are the only people right now, because they can withstand, their money is not tied to our economy. And as long as they have power, and I mean, we know former mentioned that the gas assets could be targeted and electricity could go. Barring that, once that doesn't happen, as long as we have internet and we have power, the people who are transacting business remotely, digitally. So if I was in Trinidad right now, I might lose about 20% of my income in Trinidad, but I still have all of my clients outside of the Caribbean region where I could still function. And that is again, we've been talking about, digital skills, digital entrepreneurship, remote jobs for a while, but it's those people that are going to be the most resilient during times like this as well.
The former would have mentioned something yesterday, and I want to get your take on it. It's kind of a little shift away from the actual conversation, but we are treating with the current status and style of warfare. So no more that World War II boots on the ground, tank pulling up on beach, man running out with gun. It's going to be aerial, drones. It's going to be probably financial warfare and cyber. Let's talk about the latter. You know, that digital warfare. How could that look? What can be done to really disrupt systems from that cyber standpoint that could literally cause the same kind of panic and stress that the traditional man on the ground running up, you know, on the beach with a gun in their hand. Let's talk about the new age warfare now, Keron.
Yeah, and I mean we're seeing it. I think the biggest new age warfare that we see is misinformation and disinformation. Right? We don't know what is real from what is not real anymore. We're seeing a whole lot of takes about what our situation is. And you know, on one again, it's more divisive than anything. So in times like this, we're just going to see a ramp up of more misinformation and redirection, where people don't even know what to believe anymore. But then, with regards to us being attacked, now I don't foresee us, you know, getting particularly targeted during this just exchange with USA and Venezuela. I don't foresee us being a target of additional attacks on like our infrastructure, like the banking sector and whatnot. I think it's already high to begin with, but you know, these are possibilities, right? And again, I don't foresee it happening to us any more than it is already happening, but misinformation for sure. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, and people needing to learn, you know, how to tell what is real information from what is not, exercising good judgment. We know people don't like to fact check, but these are going to be, I think that's going to be the biggest thing that is going to impact our country. It's this age of misinformation and disinformation online.
If there's any fallout, how long, I mean, obviously, I don't know if there's any empiricals or any particular comparative, but nonetheless, is this going to be short-term, medium-term, or long-term financial impact on the SME sector if indeed there's any kind of military engagement? Let's consider short, long, medium, and long-term impacts.
I think it's going to impact us in every which way, shape, or form, because, okay, let's look at the immediate impact, right? Let's just say with all this new military might that's in the region, if the cost of insurance for freights, for freights to come in and deliver our goods, if the premiums go up, that means the cost of business is going to go up, because we're going to pass the cost down to the consumer. But then we are also in a double whammy in Trinidad and Tobago, specifically because we are in a foreign exchange crisis as well. So if it takes even more money for us to now pay our suppliers abroad, to pay for shipping, to pay for customs, if it takes more US to conduct business, and we are already in a foreign exchange crisis, that's just going to wipe out a lot of businesses. So I think that's something that's going to impact us, you know, at any point in time. That is something that we really have to keep an eye on. And then in terms of long-term businesses, well, from medium to long-term, if your business is a non-essential product-based business, you are bringing in, you're bringing in soaps, you're bringing in, clothing, you're bringing in, anything that's considered non-essential, are you going to be able to continue running that business moving forward, or are you going to have to pivot? And if you pivot, what does that look like? And I think one of the things that we need to really have a conversation about is the revitalization plan is all good and dandy, but we need to talk about us upskilling and reskilling the nation, getting our people prepared for the new age of work. Because if there was a higher percentage of people that had digital skills that were working remotely for companies outside of TNT, like we see in India, like we see in Philippines, those are just two examples of countries that have really positioned themselves to be the outsourced labor for other countries around the world. If we start to develop these skills, then we're not going to be as reliant on physical products bringing in. Now we can start to now export more of our intellectual property and more of our skill sets. But that's a conversation we have to have from the PM all the way down, rethinking our workforce and getting it prepared for the for the next 20 years. We have to rethink that workforce conversation.
Keron Rose, as always, sincere thanks. God spare. We'll touch base again next week.
Next week, Jason, always a pleasure.
Indeed. Keron Rose, our Digipreneur, have no fear. Trust me. Always on point. Tuesday, you see that second hour, this digital conversation into our next conversation. Always lots of information, and it's very impactful. And up next, Dr. LeBlanc, Conversations on Cancer, and we're going to treat with Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month.